What's up, y'all? Leroy Green here. Very happy to be here, by the way, to do my first ever movie review of Terminator Salvation. Now, I haven't quite worked out my rating system, so I'm going to do this on the fly. But I do know there's some general characteristics in which I am going to judge this movie by. The first of which is story. I thought it was pretty solid, but was it what I expected? Yeah, it was. It was a pretty straightforward war-type epic film, and I use the word epic because lately there just hasn't been very many of those. I mean, and the fact that Christian Bale happened to be in 2 of them in the past 2 years, I mean, three years, I believe. Yeah, Batman Begins, Batman, The Dark Knight, obviously. That was probably my favorite movie of all time, and now he's in Terminator, which I consider an epic level film. It was grand in scale. The story was, it was pretty much what I expected, and there wasn't any serious plot holes. So when you go, you'll definitely be able to be immersed in the story. Did the writers and filmmakers go above the Call of Duty in terms of just surprising you, having some plot twists? I'd have to say, yeah. The beginning, definitely. I mean, in terms of tempo and pace, the beginning of the film starts out kind of slow. They tease you with a little bit of action. There's a scene between Christian Bale and a Terminator that I thought was great. But when I gauged the reaction of the other people in the theater, you know, they definitely weren't as into it as I were. They hit you with a couple like bursts of action films, just a piece of them, and then they hit you with a huge one at the end. So in terms of pacing, the movie starts out kind of slow and it builds until finally it has a climax, which is exactly what the storyline is supposed to do. But I have to say that they did go beyond in terms of twists and things I didn't expect. A very, very pleasant surprise at the end. If you don't go for anything, go just out of the curiosity of seeing what that surprise is, because I mean, I was extremely happy. It turned the whole movie around for me. Not that the first part was disappointing, but it definitely turned it around. The next part of this criteria is aesthetics and sound. The movie was definitely visually pleasing. The machines looked real. They didn't look CG. It was probably because they used practical props. They built those things and had them walking around, and they were probably animatronic, which is kind of true to the tradition of the first Terminator and the second Terminator film. Were the locations, did they fit? Were they pleasing? Even though they were, you know, they represented a world that was post-apocalyptic and very decrepit, I say absolutely. Like, they were fun to look at. They were almost like a character in the film. They definitely put a lot of work into set dressing, a lot of work into building these sets, and a lot of work into just picking out the practical locations, the deserts, you know, the roads, the buildings. Was the soundtrack a good fit? The soundtrack, I have to say, was kind of one of the down points of the film. They wanted the film to feel post-apocalyptic, so they didn't have very much music, and when they did, it served a real purpose. So kudos to them for that. They used more scores than like music you would hear every day. They only used like one rock song in the film, and to me, I think it could have used a little bit more music. And just for the sake of, you know, anticipation, I can recall a lot more songs throughout my lifetime because of the movies they were attached to, and this one just doesn't have them. The third part of my criteria was obviously acting. Did the actors fit the roles they were playing, or could someone else just as easily been plopped into that role and done a great job? I have to say, half and half. I think Christian Bale as John Connor, great. Some people are going to criticize him, I know it already, but the way Christian Bale played it was correct for this film because he's not John Connor, he's John Connor. He's still kind of figuring out what he's supposed to be doing. You know, there's, you know, this is not the end of this Terminator story, so why be who he's supposed to be in the end? Because then the next film will be completely boring because you're seeing the same character you saw in the last film. And was he Batman? No, you know, not at all. He didn't use the gruff voice that everybody's giving him a hard time about. He was a different character. My only criticism of him was that he was a little thin. There were some shots where he definitely didn't seem to have the stature of a war hero or a classic leader. Sam Worthington is Marcus Wright. This movie, I have to point this out before I move on, definitely did a great job of managing an ensemble cast. It didn't feel too heavy on John Connor, which is going to surprise people because the movie's, you think it's going to be about him, but no, it's about a bunch of people. It's about the resistance. They do a great job of balancing John Connor with Marcus Wright. Balancing Marcus Wright with Kyle Reese. While I'm on Kyle Reese, played by a wonderful young actor who I also saw in Star Trek, just couldn't tell where this kid was from or who he was, which is the sign of a great actor. And you feel like you don't know anything about the person. And that young actor's name is Anton Yelchin. I hope I'm saying that right. Look forward to seeing him in the future. I look forward to seeing that guy go on and on and on. Back to Marcus Wright, the character. Ex-con at the beginning of the film plays into the story quite a bit. Felt like he was well played by Sam Worthington. Wasn't too familiar with the guy's work beforehand, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. I hope he's not one of those one-trick ponies that just kind of plays the same character over and over again, and all of a sudden he just found the perfect one for this movie. I mean, it doesn't take away from the performance at all, but he was definitely a character I like to watch. Moon Blood God, definitely a good performance. I was a little scared of what she was going to do because I saw the Street Fighter movie, but was her character absolutely essential to the story? No, she wasn't. She was fun to watch. She was the sex appeal of the film. Bryce Dallas Howard, I believe she might be Ron Howard's daughter. Call me on it if I'm wrong. She played Kate Connor. She wasn't that significant to the story other than being in delicate condition. Let's just say that. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. She was solid, believable. She didn't take me out of the story, but she didn't move the story forward. So she just kind of went in and out of my consciousness. And last was Common as Barnes. The only character I'd have to say was underdeveloped. I'm assuming he's going to pop up in the next film and he's going to be more developed. I could just be making excuses because I really wanted this movie to do well, and in my opinion it did do well. Barnes was one of those characters that just didn't really need to be in it, and and since he was in it, he could have been played by anybody. I think there's actors that could have amplified that role and made me want to look at that character a lot more. Although Common does have a great look, he has a very serious look. He has a look that means business. There's other actors out there that could have done it as well. And I think I saw like a small cameo of Terry Crews in there as like a dying soldier. That could have just been me. My last thing is the low points of the film. They're doing the green screen, just like in the movie 300, and you can tell it's green screen. It's a little disappointing that as far as we come with technology and whatnot, we can't quite blend reality with fantasy on screen as well as we'd like, because you could definitely see it. But then again, that was just with locale and scenery. And then once again, we move on to another part of the movie, and it's that big surprise I'm telling you about, where honestly I could say is some of the most amazing CG I've ever seen, because I believed it. It was very reminiscent of the first and second Terminators. Wow. It pumped me up, and I really felt like them going that extra mile is what kept this Terminator story alive, because it made me feel all the same feelings I felt when I was 10 years old and I saw Terminator 2, I saw Terminator 1. They really did a good job with that part of the movie and the CG and really building these worlds. It made me wonder how much money they spent doing it. Highlights of the movie, watching the relentlessness of the Terminators. They really are a character in this film, although they don't have lines, duh, and they really are cool to watch because they don't stop. So overall, I'd have to say, if you're a young male between the ages of probably 15 and 60, you want to see this film. You don't necessarily want to take a lady on a date to go see this film, because I'm not sure if women will be into it as much. But go see it on your own. And catch it on the Friday matinee. Catch it, I wish you could have caught the midnight showing. If you did, great. If you didn't, you know what, you catch it later. But you do not want to just wait for this to come out on DVD, because you're not going to know what everybody's talking about at the water cooler on Monday. So, that's my review. I give it 2 thumbs up. And see you at the movies. Peace.